and because I'm more familiar with Trayce Jackson-Davis than probably the Golden State Warriors even are, I would like to tell you and the Golden State Warriors a little bit about the player that they've got. I can tell you definitively that Steve Kerr has never had a rookie quite like this. Not a lot of prospects turn into NBA players from that draft position, but I do think the Warriors have one who will. And I do think the Warriors have a player in Trayce Jackson-Davis that is going to give the Warriors minutes in this upcoming season. Again, Steve has never had a rookie with this type of pedigree. He's a 23-year-old man, which, let's face it, not a lot of Warrior rookies have started from that starting point. They've all been teenagers and 19 and unseasoned and raw and from smaller colleges and places that really didn't produce. And, you know, Trayce Jackson-Davis is a 23-year-old man whose daddy played in the NBA. You got to like that starting point right there. He was a consensus first-team All-American in his senior year, all Big Ten defensive team, all-conference tournament team, and a two-time team captain. So that's what you're starting with. Someone who's got bona fides coming from a blue blood program. And again, forget about the fact I went to Indiana for just a second. The only thing that leads me to knowing this much about him is because I went to IU and I watched this guy so much, but that's got nothing to do with how I feel about him now. It really doesn't. This is the player that they've got. So they've been keeping statistics about basketball games at Indiana since 1901. We're talking 122 years of basketball. That is not what anyone would call a small sample size. That's an awful lot of basketball games. Trayce Jackson-Davis, with all the players that have come through Bloomington, is third in career points, the school record holder in career rebounds, school record holder in block shots. So you have someone who does the things that, let's face it, a lot of raw NBA prospects just don't have an awful lot of seasoning doing. Sure, everybody coming in the league feels like they can score. Can you get a rebound? Can you get a block? There's never been anyone at Indiana who's got more rebounds and blocks than this kid. He blocked at least one shot in 105 games. He had 78 multiple block games in his career. He is third in career double-doubles, 24 career 20-point, 10 rebound games, 11 career 30-point games, 112 games of at least 10 points, including 45 straight to finish his career at Indiana. His senior year, and again, I really don't know why the NBA let this guy drop. I'm surprised. No other team, the Pacers especially, said, yeah, we're going to take a flyer on a guy who led Indiana in scoring, rebounds, assists, and block shots per game. He was essentially the Nikola Jokic of the Indiana Hoosiers. He had more assists than Jalen Hood-Schifino, who the Lakers drafted to be in theur backcourt. He had more assists than Jalen Hood-Schifino, for goodness sakes. He's the first player in the last 25 seasons to average 20, 10, 4, and 2 in a season. The first player in a quarter century in college basketball to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 block shots in a season. He's got the highest single-season scoring average at Indiana since Eric Gordon, who's turned into a very good NBA player. He's got the highest block production rate since Dean Garrett, who played 7 seasons in the NBA and 7 seasons over in Italy. When it came to responding in big games, Trayce Jackson-Davis is the first player to produce at least 25 points and 5 blocks in a win over an AP number 1 team since Marcus Camby did so at UMass back in 1995. Again, there's a lot of talent that has gone through and come out of college, and no one ever played as well against an AP preseason number 1 as this guy did. And he was the only scouting report that other coaches were worried about. He was the focus of every single game plan against the Hoosiers. It was try to slow him down, and no one really did. He had a 20-point, 10 rebound, 4 assists, 4 block game, and no turnovers against an AP top 25 team. That was against North Carolina, who was ranked number 1 about 10 days before Indiana played them. He had a career-high 9 block shots in a game against Kansas, a school that cranks out all kinds of NBA talent. His block output marked the most ever by a Jayhawk opponent. So in other words, no one ever blocked more games, again, shot to block ratio in a single game against Kansas in the history of Kansas basketball. Again, another one of those not small sample size statistics. Indiana went 2-0 against Purdue, and he was at the center of both of those wins. That means he plays big in big games. There is no bigger college basketball game than Indiana-Purdue in the state of Indiana. And this guy led Indiana to victory twice his senior year. Whenever he'd play the likes of Elon or Kennesaw State, he would drop 30. The guy started every game. He was the focus of every single scouting report. He's just a player. He's a player. He's the first consensus All-American from Indiana since Cody Zeller and Victor Oladipo, 2 guys who have gone on to have NBA careers and are still in the NBA, although Victor Oladipo's knee is now hamburger. Zeller didn't represent himself well with the Heat this run, but they're in the NBA, right? Trayce Jackson-Davis is the first major conference player to have a 25-point, 20-rebound, 5-assist game since Hasheem Thabeet, again, never much of an NBA player, but an NBA player indeed, did so at UConn back in 2009. He's one of 5 players in Big Ten basketball history to have recorded 2,000 career points with 1,000 career rebounds. The other players, again, this is the caliber of talent that has been produced from those stats. 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds coming out of the Big Ten. Trayce Jackson-Davis is one of 5 players to ever do that. Who are the other 4? Well, Joe Barry Carroll, 10 NBA seasons. Save the jokes. Greg Kelser, 7 NBA seasons. Herb Williams, 18 NBA seasons and over 1,100 NBA games. Ethan Happ out of Wisconsin, by the way, is averaging 12-8 over in Spain. Not an NBA player, but a very good and productive professional. There have only been 126 college basketball players throughout NCAA history to have 2,000 points, 1,000 career rebounds. You don't have guys like Tim Duncan sticking around for their senior seasons anymore. And I'm not saying that Trayce Jackson-Davis is Tim Duncan. When it comes to guys who are putting up the kind of stats of 2,000, 1,000, there's a lot of, Stony Brook, Bucknell, Austin P, Creighton's of the world, Oral Roberts, Niagara, Rice, not exactly programs that are cranking out or known for developing NBA talent. But here's who's also on the list that Trayce Jackson-Davis finds himself coming off of after 4 years at Indiana. Tim Duncan, Alonzo Mourning, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Ralph Sampson, Larry Bird, Sidney Moncrief, Rick Barry, Oscar Robertson, and those are just the Hall of Famers. And then you get an awful lot of very legit NBA careers having done in college what Trayce Jackson-Davis has done. You get your Christian Laettners, Brian Big Country Reeves, Clarence Weatherspoon, Popeye Jones, Stacey Augmon, Derek Coleman, Purvis Ellison, Never Nervous, Danny Manning, Ron Harper, Wayman Tisdale, Xavier McDaniel, Bill Cartwright. There are also an awful lot of names that didn't go on to have glorious NBA careers at all. There is no element of you do ABC in college, you will definitely do XYZ as a pro. It doesn't work like that. But I can only tell you that Trayce Jackson-Davis, that he has a starting point in his career that means he's going to be a pro. I'd be stunned if he's not signing a second or third NBA contract. There have been players that the Warriors have drafted, handed to Steve Kerr and said, here's your rookie, who weren't even NBA players. Jacob Evans wasn't an NBA player. Patrick McCaw might have won rings, not an NBA player. Not really. This kid has real basketball credentials and resumes that he's bringing into his rookie year that Steve Kerr doesn't have much familiarity with. There is no automatic, you did this, now you're definitely going to do that. That's not how sports works. But if you're looking for a starting point, a launching pad, there has never been a rookie in Steve Kerr's, this will be his 10th year coaching, that has the kind of seasoning, the sort of experience that this kid has. And if there's one thing that undoes Steve Kerr's love for his rookies is he can't trust them because they're not experienced enough. They haven't played enough basketball, and he's trying to develop a basketball player, much less an NBA player. Trayce Jackson-Davis, boys and girls, he's a basketball player. What that means, what will he do? There are an awful lot of through lines between you did this, you're probably in line to do that. Probably. Now, things could go wrong. I'm not guaranteeing anything. But I really think this kid's going to be an NBA player, and it's not just because I went to IU. If I had gone to Purdue and I'm looking at these stats, I would have said, hey, there's an awful lot of commonality between guys who have made it in this league and this kid's starting point. So I think it's pretty exciting. I think it's pretty exciting. You should be excited about it too. I'm sorry I'm not, giving you the Pajemski excitement, but look, that guy doesn't have the pedigree. He doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have all the notches on his belt that Trayce Jackson-Davis had at major D1 level college experience. He's at Santa Clara. It's a cute little story. That's all it is. Indiana is a f***ing monster. The pressures on players at Indiana are tantamount to having the same kind of pressure you would have on you in the NBA. This kid's not going to get out on the court and start folding or buckling under the weight of all the eyes upon him. All eyes have been on him for a very, very long time. I'm excited about it. I really am. I'm excited about it.